Welcome to our Merry Marvelites. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. Welcome to what Daniel Drew informs us is the 45th episode of Marvel Movie Talk.
Wow.
Now, Daniel, I think you were doing the legacy numbering for Marvel Movie News. So let us know where we're at with that. That's like Fantastic Four issue 35 parentheses 740. But we appreciate all that. And yes, something that we'll get to there. Great comment from Ghost 8386. As always, I'm Christian Bladt. And as always, except for last week when the con was held by the one, the only, as his on-screen name says, so I feel like I'm just reading what's there. Black Loki, Jeff Williams Jr.
What's up? What's up? Hey, honestly, I saw Eric say Harry Loki like 5 minutes before we got on the air. So like for the last 5 minutes, I've been like trying to change my name. It happened 2 seconds before we changed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, there was already a Black Loki. What's going on?
That's true. But hopefully you don't sell out our underground bunker location.
I hope I'll make it longer than he does.
Of course.
I think it's actually called something like in the CC. It's like like bombastic Loki or something like that. It's not even like.
A very important question from Jacob Downey in the chat. Who's the hottie in the corner? Well, the hottie in the corner, of course, is only one and only Eric Loki.
Yes.
Harry Loki.
Also.
Yes.
It's funny because I was going to start
Loki. Thank
week. I was going to start calling you Alligator Loki, but now I can't. So that's
more of a crocodile.
That's right.
And Jeff, I don't see Black Loki. I only see young, handsome Loki.
I appreciate
you know that. That's all I see. Someone who would potentially be my pallbearer. That's what I see.
And the beautiful thing about Daniel Drew, he knew that this is Legacy episode 328. Which if that show ever starts up again, it's going to be very confusing because it'll be like, how there's multiple versions of the same band out there with the same name. But also with us, of course, is the hottie in the corner that Jacob was speaking about. Kait,
you don't know
not a Loki at all.
We don't know that. Everyone has a corner, Christian. Everyone's in a corner.
Some
to be
people
fair, I know Jacob, and I know who he was talking about, and it was me.
It was you.
Yeah, but I just had to act like I didn't realize that it was me. And yes, Jacob has now noticed that everyone is actually in a corner. So, and Kait, not a Loki, is here as well. But not being a Loki doesn't mean that I'm not going to ask you first, Kait. Overall thoughts on Loki episode 5?
Interesting. It was interesting. I got halfway through the episode and I was, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I thought it was really rocky.
Bold statement. You know what that is? Hot take. Hot take.
Hot take from the hottie in the corner. But I thought it was, I don't know, like I really enjoyed where the episode went, but also it's just like, I felt like none of the pieces like fit together. And there was definitely a scene that repeated. And I was just like, okay, wait, like we only have like 40 minutes. You don't need to repeat a beat. So from a screenwriter perspective, I was like, uh-oh, where are we headed? But it was all to like, I felt like there was a scene that was there to fill time. And I was just like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Which, if you're going to do that, at least have the decency to put a graphic on the screen that says this scene here to fill time,
Yeah. But I did enjoy all of the Lokis. I did enjoy Alligator Loki the best of all of the Lokis. And I love that it's what makes a Loki is the survivor mentality, because the only thing left besides like Morbius, who's been hanging out with Lokis, are a bunch of Lokis. They've figured it out. They've like dialed it in.
I'm going to write to our friend, past guest, Jordan Blum, who was the showrunner on MODOK, to ask if he might be able to do the standalone spinoff of Alligator Loki, just the comic book, because I think we need to know more. Eric, what did you think of Loki 5?
I would put it above meh. So if Kate's the hottie, is that, I guess, the naughty take then? If you're the hottie, I'm the naughty. The naughty says, I think this was good, and I think it got me excited for episode 6. I agree that there was some filler. I thought they kept throwing Loki's at us to a point where it started weirdly enough feel like almost like an old Batman episode at times. Like when all of them are fighting, like I half expected
Right.
to
What's
see Boone
this?
dying,
Two Caped Crusaders? One an alligator, the other a minor bird?
Tune in, Bat fans. Same Bat time, same Bat channel. Yeah, it was crazy, but I also loved how unhinged this was. Like
Yeah.
this felt like they kind of got their Loki freak on, which I'm all for because we only have 6 episodes and now we're already done. So this felt like if one felt like a Doctor Who, this felt like the monkeys or the Batman sort of time lapse, and then it'll all pay off next week in however many minute long episode it will be.
I did like how like you have that moment when you're like at a party with a bunch of like old friends from college and you're like, crap, everyone here's an asshole. And then you go like, wait, I'm here.
Yeah.
And like I felt like the Loki that we've been following had that moment when like all the Lokis started like turning on each other and it's just like, oh my God, I'm an asshole.
Yeah. What's the common denominator? We're all here because we're all assholes. Jeff, what did you think? What did you think of Loki 5, aka Loki 5 assignment Miami Beach?
I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Honestly, it reminded me after like hearing some of your responses, it reminded me of episode 3, but like if episode 3 was good. Because episode 3 felt like a filler to me. Okay. And I mean, it was just an adventure. They were able to do wacky things. They were able to kind of do whatever they wanted. And that's what episode 3 felt like to me. But for this episode, it was fun. We got to see different Lokis. and the disparity between the Lokis were so like gigantic to me. I love seeing the ending fight scene with the original Loki. I can't think of what is it iconic Loki or whatever his name is, the older Loki. Classic Loki. I love those fight scenes. I thought it was really cool, to be honest. And on the level of the other TV shows, I honestly thought this was better than WandaVision's last fight scene. I thought this magic was cooler. I thought the world building, I think it was like Asgard that he was like trying to use as a building to like block. I thought it was really cool to watch. I thought it was really fun. But we have 1 episode left. Where are we going still? That's the question. That's the big overarching problem. But I thought it was a really fun episode.
I'm going to echo what Cam Egan says. Richard E. Grant as classic Loki was great. From the time that we heard Richard E. Grant was going to be on this show, and as we began to get the inkling that he would be, of course, just playing an older Loki, I was very excited. I've mentioned the film with Nell and I in passing, which I think people know him from a lot of stuff, but boy, should they know him from that. And he was delightful. I loved that he had the comic accurate costume. And say what you want about these Disney Plus shows. They have given us multiple comic book accurate costumes, including Scarlet Witch and US Agent. You know,
and Vision.
We have. Yeah, that's true, and we did get it from Vision as well.
And technically, Falcon when he turned into Captain America, that's comic book accurate.
That's true. That is definitely comic book accurate. So I thought that
give the fans what they want.
It was interesting to get the dynamic of all the Lokis, and I think that they were supposed to be annoying, and I did, you know, it was definitely very cartoony, but let's be honest, these are comic books, so we get that at times. But I love that they all turned on each other, like literally every one of them, and then so our Loki's just like, oh, I just got to get out of here, you know. Clearly, we're gonna let them all kill each other, but I've got more important things to do. Michael B with a question before we dive in. Let's address this. I meant to ask last week: could Sylvie be the true daughter of Odin and Freya? Thus, it wouldn't be weird if Loki likes her because he adopted. I still feel like
it's Frigga.
Yeah, I still feel like she is a Loki, and it is still weird. But in Loki's head, it makes perfect sense that the only person he could ever fall in love with would be himself.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Jeff? Do you think that you know, that they could come up with some clause where it's like, well, you know, it's not really himself, or do you think that that's really who this has to be? This has to be a Loki.
I feel like it has to be a Loki. I feel like that's what the whole overarching like show and meaning behind this is. There's like multiple iterations of Loki, but I feel like they said that she was adopted as well in this series. So I mean, if she has the same backstory as all the rest of them, I'm just gonna go with that she's a Loki.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What is your thought, Kate?
I think she's a Loki. I mean, but also it comes into this like, regardless of like the biology weirdness of it, like that's what can cause a rift in the timeline is two variants falling in love with each other because they're never ever supposed to meet. And they're never ever supposed to interact. So of course, like that's the timeline that would get disrupted. But also it brings in the question, I think an overarching theme of the show is identity and how you decide who you are.
Right.
And it's been a theme of the other shows as well, especially with the Ship of Theseus, with the two visions, and how do you decide who you are after, like with the Winter Soldier's trauma, and how do you decide to be Captain America, or how do you drop being the Winter Soldier to eventually turn into the White Wolf? All of these shows are dealing with a question of how do you decide who you are. And I think that Sylvie saying she's not a Loki so much and like literally changing her name and like not taking on this mantle and not taking on this like pressure is why she can be who she is because she's not like falling into this. Like once you see all the freaking Lokis together, including Alligator Loki, it's like they're falling into the trap of themselves. And the question is, can you really change?
And speaking of which, Dominica Saxon has a good quote from the episode. I liked classic Loki confirming Gator Loki is a Loki by saying he's green, and Kame Egan also agrees. Eric, in terms of the themes that we're talking about and sort of this idea of who Sylvie is, have you given much thought to whether or not she might not be a Loki, or do you just feel as though she is certainly a Loki and has given us every indication that she is?
Yeah, I feel like if she's not a Loki, it's a little bit of a cheat. Because what's so interesting here? I mean, you could joke like this is in some ways like, is this a PSA for masturbation? Is this a an attack on masturbation? I don't know, but what I love here is Loki and the idea of attraction. So, Loki in the corner was talking about how it's about identity, but it's also about like Loki, Lady Loki, Loki, Sylvie. It's like they don't know what they feel for each other. And I find those moments between them so amazing because you got two very strong actors in there. And there's so many things like they want to say, they want to do. Am I supposed to be attracted to you? Am I supposed to touch you? And I thought that's the stuff that really actually, if we're talking themes, like going beyond identity, it's like figure out who you are, but then figure out who are you supposed to be with, and having such a fluid character like Loki, it's the perfect character to put that on. This idea of what does attraction even mean? I mean, honestly, Crying Game, 25 years ago, that is a meditation on like what is love. And I remember one of the guys when they were interviewed, like it's just a piece of meat. Which was, I thought, such a great sort of saying, okay, love is love right there. It's just a piece of meat. I don't think you'll see that on a T-shirt, but...
You should see it on a T-shirt, by the way.
Next week when I design it.
I did like sort of the united front that our Loki and Sylvie did, and the fact that they joined hands. Now, I don't want any of you to think about it. Just instant reaction. Will you be weirded out if and when we see them kiss on screen? Kate?
No. That's it.
So it's just me. Okay, that's all right.
At this point, I was going to say, at this point, I'm assuming it's coming. You know what I'm saying? They let us.
It's coming.
They're making us wait for it. And all the
last episode is just going to be a real-time sex scene. 45 minutes.
Well,
all the Loki on Loki shippers that have been out there. This is what they're waiting for. What were you going to say, Kate?
But what's interesting about like the relationship that's being built is it's like it's very much from his side, which it's like, of course, we're in his point of view and not hers. And there's definitely like I've been on the run for most of my life, actually all of my life. So like I'm not really focused on this right now. But it seems like a lot of the like chemistry connection is coming from Tom as an actor, just like full on like he's just like chucking it at her just to make it like fit because she can't actually like emote back except for in these very specific tender moments.
I am
But
glad that
it's all from him.
I'm glad that Ghost 8386 was paying attention. I was going to mention this.
Yes.
Kid Loki was absolutely drinking
Yes!
an Ecto Cooler.
I was
Because
like,
if
what
there-
is that?
If there is anything that has been sucked into a portal to the end of time, it is every remaining container of High C Ecto Cooler, which, you didn't know what you had until it was gone. You felt like Ecto Cooler was going to be with us forever. And by the way, there's another Ghostbusters movie coming out this year. If
Right.
there was ever a time to bring back Ecto Cooler, I say right now, and Kid Loki is the one to do it for us. But that is neither here nor there. I think that somebody had mentioned that they were disappointed that we didn't get an end credits scene in this episode. I feel like episode 6 is going to be one big long end credits scene, and I think that there just wasn't anything to put in there. I think it was essential that we had it at the end of episode 5, because you have a whole week of like, so Loki's dead, Loki's not dead. But once we knew Loki wasn't dead, I figured Mobius certainly wouldn't be dead, and I knew we would see him again, because you don't cast Owen Wilson just to have him in 3 out of 6 episodes. Were you relieved to see Mobius, Jeff, especially driving the something out of a Quentin Tarantino movie with the giant pizza slice on the top?
Yeah, it kind of brought me back to seeing like I don't want to say the extras, but like the Kate Denning and everybody come in on WandaVision, like when they kind of did the cameo in the end of the episode on the end of the season. But I enjoyed it. I always wanted to see Owen Wilson come back or Mobius come back and kind of get a redemption factor. And as soon as we saw Loki kind of wake up, I knew Mobius would be there eventually. I didn't know how many we would see. That was going to be the interesting part. But I love the fact that he's there. I just don't understand why he just went back by himself. That's my only question. It just didn't seem like it wasn't planned.
Yeah, at the moment when he walked through, when he used the 10 pad, I expected that there would be an end credit scene, and I thought it would be Mobius seeing what he gets there, but obviously they're going to show us that next week. What did you think, Eric? I know that seeing two men show genuine affection and fondness for each other in a completely platonic hug is what you always look for in everything that you watch, and you got that in this, did you not, sir?
I got all the platonic man love I needed for this week. I need more, but one week.
But
it was
for this week, yeah.
And it really does. I'll circle back to like I think Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson have such a great chemistry. And with all due peace and love, of course, to Captain America and Winter Soldier, it kind of puts them to shame. I mean, and again, I know it's a different thing they were going for. They're more lethal weapon, but I just think like they've built something so interesting that really, if you tell me season 2 is the two of them working together, I'm game. And
if it's 6 episodes of the two of them on jet ski races for the entire episode, that's great.
I mean, like adventures where that's their mode of transportation. Yes.
What about a soft reboot of Baywatch where they don't use the IP? They don't call it that, but they're basically lifeguards and they have to save drowning people for 6 episodes.
The Watcher of Bays. So you can work the Watcher in there.
You have a Watu there. What did you think, Loki in the corner? Now everybody's changed their name, so that's what I have to spend the answer to this question doing.
You don't have to.
No, believe me, you've made it so I have to. But talk a little bit about getting more on-screen interaction between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. And by the way, no guarantee that we won't see the two of them together, that we will see the two of them again together next week. That may have actually been them saying goodbye to each other.
I mean, I think Loki didn't know if he was going to make it out alive by choosing to stay with Sylvie, which I wish they made a bigger moment out of that. But I mean, I like in terms of like including both of them on screen, I feel like cutting back and forth between two singles was like a little jarring for a moment that big. And I kind of knew that Loki would choose to stay, so I didn't feel like it was given the gravitas of it. But maybe the gravitas was like him deciding he had a friend. But also, we knew. Yay! Oh man. But I really like this friendship that's been built between these two characters and between those two people. And I honestly think it's because of Owen Wilson or Mobius, sorry, interaction with all of these Lokis that he was able to survive the void for so long.
Yeah,
Because
no,
the
I think
only thing that can survive the void apparently is the creativeness of a Loki. And because he's been around them for so long, he was able to figure it out.
And then that would be the reason that this is the one Mobius that survived. You know, the other
Right.
one got eaten like that ship. A couple comments from before. Cami Egan wants to know, are we going to get a glimpse of Kang in the finale? Daniel Drew still rooting for Immortus, same character, different parts of the timeline. I think that it is entirely possible that you might get a hint of Kang in like a post-credits scene next week. I don't think you'll get to see his face. I think that somebody, maybe will say the word Kang,
Right.
but I don't think we're going to see him, in terms of an actor made up to look like Kang. What do you think, Eric? Do you think we're going to get Kang or Immortus or any of the different variations of that character?
Up until this week, I would have one of you guys before pitched so astutely. Why would they put movie folk into the TV show as an introduction? And that's sort of been my guiding principles over this past few months. But it does feel like they've been leaning so hard into Kang stuff that, I mean, even and this is an Easter egg I did not discover, but someone else discovered that there's like a Kang copter, so they're really leaning in. I think a glimpse of Kang, sort of like Claw from Inspector Gadget, I think feels right. Like we get a glimpse of him, just like we used to of Thanos, before we met him. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was agreeing with you. I said Thanos.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, just give us a hint of it, I think would work, where it's not sort of spoiling it, but also gives all these hungry folk the Kang they so desperately want.
Yes, there's the Kang we want versus the Kang we deserve, and we'll see which one we get. In terms of Easter eggs, our pal, former Marvel Movie News head honcho, Koi Jandro, is the one that made sure that I saw this, and I can't believe I missed it.
Is it the Kang?
No, it is not the Kang.
Oh,
it is. It's Throg, aka Frog Thor, in a jar. I did not catch that, and
I did.
I was watching intently. But I'm so glad that Koi posted this after the fact, because the fact that I can share with all of you how excited I am to know that, yes, I missed him. But the fact that if this is all we ever see of Throg, at least we got this much, because I didn't know that maybe we would ever get him. But I still fully expect Taika Waititi must have a script laying around where he's like, no, we're going to do a whole Throg movie. It's multiple issues where Thor got turned into a frog. It wasn't just a gag. I mean, I guess it kind of was, but now, Kate, you were talking about some other Easter eggs, and since we're talking about them, you go ahead and clue us in on some.
No, I like that they included Throg a lot because it's from when Loki turns Thor into a frog. But I also liked that was a variant, that wasn't supposed to happen. That idea.
Yeah, Daniel's excited. He just thought that was a shrunken Thor, and Kemi Egan also excited. So thanks again to Koi for making sure that I saw it so that I could share it with everyone. And I'm sorry, what were you saying, Kate?
Oh no. And here's where I got a little bit stuck on if we're going to get Kang the Conqueror this time or not. I think it's going to be He Who Remains, and it's going to have a weird connection to Kang the Conqueror. Like, it's going to unlock him in a way, so that he can actually be part of the universe. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think that is going to happen. And what I saw was, I thought that the last time we all met, I was like, that's Stark Tower in the background. It wasn't Stark Tower. It was Kang Tower. So on the side of the building, it says QENG, which is a run of the comic books that they bought it. That company bought it from Stark. And the CEO of that company is a guy named Mr. Griffin, who is Kang the Conqueror in disguise. So that was like a weird, like they were dropping a bunch of like weird, like we're never going to get to it. And so we're just saying it's a variant on the timeline. So we're just going to drop them here just so you can like find like the people like me that are like finding all the Easter eggs.
And Ghost 8386 shouting out a Living Tribunal
Yes.
Easter egg in this episode. Yeah. So it's definitely like an episode like this is worth watching just for, going back and seeing some of that stuff.
There is also I thought it was originally one of the Chitauri ships it crashed in the field. On second look, I think it's the Dark Aster. And then there's a helicarrier that's in the background when they're like looking over the field, and they're like Sylvie's talking about like how to defeat the monster thing. And then Journey into Mystery is also an Easter egg, the title of the episode.
Yes. Which is the original series title of the series where Thor premiered for the first like 100 some odd issues. It was called Journey into Mystery. Yeah.
And then it was the Kid Loki later on in the 80s.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. I liked seeing the Thanos copter just because I thought that was weird. I was like, that's weird. And then I had to look this up. So this wasn't like, I had to like do some research on this one because they made such a big deal out of that freaking Navy ship that dropped in the middle of the thing. So I actually looked it up, and it's actually a real ship. So the Eldridge was a ship that was around the 1950s, and there was a legend that was built around it. In 1955, there was a guy who sent in letters to a magazine saying he saw the U.S. Navy teleport the ship to another dimension where all the soldiers were killed by aliens. Wow. And then it was like plopped back. So like that was like the weirdest like
that
walk.
That's pretty
they
great.
had a bunch of Bermuda Triangle kind of mystery, like real life mystery eggs too. That was like, I mean, and again, stuff that people who are far more down that rabbit hole discovered than me. But like, there's like an old pirate ship, I think that was also like another one that's like a mysterious disappearance. So I'll give these writers credit. They're not just Easter egging Marvel; they're Easter egging history. And
where's the guy who was in the sewers below Dealey Plaza who actually shot JFK? How did he not show up there in the void? I mean, we all know he was there.
You mean Woody Harrelson's dad?
There's also a reference. There was an Easter egg to Disney with.
I didn't see that. Ghost 8386 is mentioning Yellow Jacket's helmet. I just want to throw that in before it goes away, which is cool. So wait, so to Disney, is it is it every DVD copy of Song of the South ever produced that they?
It's in the back. Those are in the background of.
They just tossed that into the void.
And honestly, like there's so many Easter eggs in that layer. Just go find them. I'm not going to tell you about them. I'm going to let you have some. But when Mobius is driving, they pass this like marquee of a theater that's like ripped apart, and it's Oswald and the Martians, which is Oswald the Rabbit.
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oh yeah. Oh, excellent.
And I was just like,
I'm good. I think I really should have watched this again because there's so much for it.
I just knew that this was going to be the one where they just dumped a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm going to find it. And so like the people I was watching it with, I'm like, I'm not going to do this now, but just know I'm watching it again and like pausing and like.
By the way, we talked about him before. Is Alligator Loki the one we most would like to spend more time with, or somebody in the comments were like the sort of boastful braggart Loki who talked about how he beat all the Avengers and got the Infinity Stones. Apparently, that guy might be bending the truth a little bit. But what if it turned out that in his timeline, no, he really did all that? He beat all the Avengers and celebrated with because if you're going to get pruned, defeating all the Avengers as a Loki and taking over the Infinity Gauntlet is another one. I did think it was interesting, the Richard E. Grant's explanation of, oh no, same thing happened to me. Thanos tried to kill me. I just hid. Because in all honesty, that's a very Loki reaction, not to stand up and try and stab anybody. Just like, no, I'm going to go ahead and hide and stay hidden for the rest of my life and then get bored,
Well, it's also I miss my family. And I think that
everyone remembered him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And it's like,
I love that Kid Loki's thing was that he killed Thor. He's just like, oh yeah, one killed Thor. Whoops.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead,
No, I
Jeff.
was gonna say that was probably one of my favorites out of
Yeah.
the Lokis. Is like he just dropped that and like, yeah, I'm the boss here, and
Yeah,
then just
now-
keep going.
Whether it's that actor or not, that's the Loki that I think we are actually definitely going to see again. You know, a kid Loki is someone we would get, and why not have it be that kid Loki? What do you think, Kate?
Do you think here's my theory. I think that which is why it surprised me that Kid Loki stayed behind. I thought we were gearing up for Young Avengers, and Kid Loki being part of Young Avengers with Wiccan, Speed, Hawkeye, Kaylee, which is Ant-Man's daughter, who's definitely going to factor in. And then even in the big series, even in the comic series, the Enchantress is a part of that team and like enchants them to be the head of that team. So, you know, maybe that we're going to get a Young Avengers spinoff with all of these kids, but I don't know if they're doing that. But it seems like they are.
We are. Yeah, I think we are. I mean, they've introduced so many Young Avengers, so many kids. Like, how are you just gonna like not have them grow up or not have them be in pivotal roles? And then we didn't see him die. That's always like a sign of like he's gonna come back, because we did see classic Loki die in a sense, as in like he got eaten. We didn't see that for Kid Loki. So like, I gotta have some faith. Like, look, he didn't die on camera, so that means he's coming back. And I would love to see Kid Loki.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think that, I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if after next week we never saw Sylvie again. By the way, you know, and they've created this multiverse, and there is no reason we can never see Tom Hiddleston as a Loki again. You know, it doesn't even need to make sense. You know, they'll just be like, yeah, this is just from some other time. This is a Loki. And there were some questions in the chat earlier about thinking about whether or not just WandaVision is going to feed into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or do we think this show is too? I think this show absolutely dealing with multiverses and infinite timelines. I think we might very well see some of these characters in that movie as well. And, you know, I'm trying to remember when the original release dates for these series were supposed to be. I think Loki was also going to be before Doctor Strange, but maybe it wasn't, because was Loki supposed to be before WandaVision? Does anybody remember that? Yeah, because that actually makes sense, because the end of WandaVision, it was supposed to be like a month till the Doctor Strange movie came out. Instead, it's like more than a year. So it would make sense, because it was definitely supposed to be Falcon Winter Soldier first. And then Loki being second makes sense, because it's, you know, got, you know, big star power of Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. So, I mean, I think we're probably all in agreement that these themes and possibly some of these situations or characters might very well turn up. Now, I don't think we're going to get a parade of Lokis throughout Doctor Strange 2, because it's his movie. But I think it's very logical that we could see Sylvie at some point in that movie, you know, and that could be her sort of official introduction in a film. Ghost 8386, hoping that Iron Lad is part of the younger Avengers. I think that that would be good to see for sure. I'm trying to think about some of the other key moments. You know, let's talk about meanwhile, back at the TVA portion, which I think is setting up next week. You know, there really wasn't much to that. But do we think, and this has been in the chat as well, is Renslayer the big bad of this show and just playing like, oh, shucks, I don't know what's going on? Or is it Miss Minutes that really runs everything? I think was that your theory, Eric? That Miss Minutes is actually the one who controls. That was Kate's. Okay. So Kate,
I just want Tara Strong to run everything though. So I'm like super biased.
That's fair. Well, then you can go first. And what do you think is, you know, what that, you know, again, not that much to that story in this episode, but setting up for the finale. Where do you imagine that's going, the TVA storyline?
Well, what was interesting about the way that Miss Minutes was interacting with Ravonna is that Miss Minutes is capable of lying. And she's capable of stalling.
Yeah.
And that there was something about like, she's so in tune with her going like, you know, oh yeah, like the the void copter, of course. And like just going along with it without even like, and that's like Are you an AI? Are you a sentient being? What are you? But I think she's very and also we've heard a couple times of like, I need the founding of the TVA files.
Yeah.
And apparently Renslayer's the only one that can access them.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's true. She is the only one that wasn't told that you're denied on that. Because
and
neither Mobius nor Loki could, especially, I mean, of course, Loki couldn't get his hands on it,
but also there's this, and Sylvie couldn't either. But also Sylvie was like redirected off of that to like, oh no, let's talk about the Void spaceship. But I think that there's definitely more to Miss Minutes than meets the eye. And
so you're saying she's a transformer, and that's why more than meets the eye?
Yes. I think she's
Optimus Minutes.
Minutes Prime.
Yeah.
Minutes Prime.
Optimus Minutes.
My favorite moment, though, I think that actually like set the tone of like the big showdown is going to be between Renslayer and Sylvie.
Yeah.
Or Renslayer is going to try to take over the TVA.
Yeah. And then that would be a moment where Kang would just be like, no. But he would probably have Kang lackeys. I'll circle back to something that I know Eric wants to talk about, but in terms of what's going on at the TVA, give us your thoughts, Eric.
Yeah.
I do see the comic book, right? Renslayer and Kang are like a couple. And that feels kind of like a place they haven't really explored yet. Like we didn't meet Mrs. Thanos or Lady Thanos or Fred Thanos.
Well, no, because Thanos was, Thanos was trying to impress Death. So you would have had to introduce that concept. I mean, that's I believe the Infinity War miniseries from, I believe, 1991. It was just like, oh, look who I can kill, like everybody. Don't you love me? Oh, I guess you don't, because no one can love Thanos, not even Gamora.
Single Me did more for less, by the way, to impress someone. Never seemed to take. But I think the idea that like she is with Kang is kind of exciting. Like. Yeah, maybe I don't know if it makes sense, but it's a thing in some ways. I do feel like I would love to see, like, in fact, she is just smokescreen for her partner, right. And whether we see him or not, I think there is something to be said for like. I don't think of her as the big baddie. I don't know. It just feels like they haven't quite given her enough. We're not quite investing in her enough, though. I think she's interesting. So I do feel like there is someone else pulling the strings. I'm thinking, but I'm really hoping it's Kang, and we get there maybe a wee bit sooner, or at least get a taste of him, like a small sample, as a thimbleful.
I think she likes the power of the TVA and being the head of something, which is why she's in for keeping the TVA exactly the way it is, even if she has to run it and keep everybody like, no, the timekeeper still exists. So anything that keeps the TVA going is, I think, the side that she's going to be on. So she's not there to say I don't want to support it, like, and I want to get rid of it, but she wants to know who she's answering to. But I think that the scene with B-15 was really important for that setup. Mm-hmm. That was always.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff, in terms of how the whole TVA storyline is going to play out?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a huge fan of it just because I feel like Renslayer hasn't gotten up to the big bad, and then like her storyline kind of goes away when she doesn't know. Like she doesn't know she's a variant, or I guess she does know she's a variant, but she doesn't know the timekeepers are real, are fake, and everything. So it's like she's confused, but also wants to be the leader. So it's like it was just too much stuff going on with her character for me. For me to really care, honestly, because I was like, okay, let's get back to the Lokis, because they actually are gonna like try and do things. I felt like I don't understand why Sylvie really trusted her. There was no reason for her to trust Renslayer at all, and I don't think I'm not really interested in Renslayer's finding out who the timekeepers are, because I feel like it's probably a smaller storyline than Sylvie or than Loki finding out, because I mean she's late to the game. Also, I think that and like correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Kang like lie to Ravonna like in the comics before? Like hasn't he lied to her before, and like that's been an issue? Or maybe it's not, because like I thought that when she was like, I didn't know anything about the timekeepers, I thought that was a nod towards Kang, as in like she was lied to through Kang and everything. But If I'm wrong on that, I want to see Kane. I've gotten annoyed with the notion that these TV shows are important, but they're not important. They either got to be one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we
I
have.
think I think they're important, but they're non-essential. Like,
But
Right.
if you watch them, it really adds to it. But they have sort of so far, you feel like if you just watch the movies, you're not going to be confused about anything. Maybe you're like, oh, I guess Wanda knows Monica Rambeau now, whatever, but they're just
Right.
minor things like that,
yeah.
I also
mean-
don't know that she did trust her entirely. I think she was trying to get close enough to get information and close enough to get a temp pad.
That's possible, but
Yeah.
Jamaica Saxon agrees with Jeff.
Yeah.
Sylvie trusting Renslayer all seem like weak cheese. So Jeff, finish up on that point, and then we'll let you get in some predictions before I know you have to go. Jeff's time is very precious, but the rest of us will be here for the next 5 hours. But anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I appreciate it, and no, I was just saying, like, I feel like if we're gonna make this big move to Disney Plus, have everybody say this is what we're going to do. This is the start of Phase 4. How are people not going to see the start of Phase 4 on TV? Like, how are you not going to watch TV and then kind of restart Phase 4 in what movies? Black Widow? Are we going to start it in Shang-Chi? Are we going to start it in Eternals? Where do we start Phase 4? So there's like a lot of questions, and I felt like we should start it in a TV show because that is the first type of content. So not having Dormammu, or not having I can't think of the dude's name, the devil in WandaVision, or
Mephisto.
Hello.
Like
not having these big bads in these TV shows while still having the biggest name actors. Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me.
No, that I can agree with that. You want them to feel important, and if they're not essential, that's disappointing. So, in your final couple minutes, Jeff, what are you expecting from the finale, and what do you most want to see from the finale?
I feel like there's got to be so much to happen in this because we don't even know who the timekeepers are. But honestly, I feel like I want Sylvie, Loki, and Kid Loki to find a way to like be in a multiverse and be able to like have different storylines. And then I want us to tease Kang. That's really it, because we've talked about it. They announced him being in Ant-Man and the Quantumania, and to me, that's like the least movie I would want him in. Maybe Captain Marvel would probably be under that, but like that's the second point. But like, give us a tease of something bigger. So I want Kang in this one.
Yeah, I think that nobody's going to be disappointed. Like, ugh, Kang, really? They gave us him? I will just be impressed if we do actually get him, but I guess we'll have to see. Well, Jeff, you'll be back with us. Well, we'll give the whole upcoming schedule of the show, but we'll see you on our next episode. And if people want to keep in touch with you, how do they do that, Jeff Loki?
Yes, at Jeff Loki or at Jeff Will Jr. on all your social media platforms. But I'll be able to talk to you guys and continue conversation there. But like you said, I do have to jump off, so I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Always great to see him representing the Hoosier state of Indiana there. So great to have him here. So before we talk about our own the rest of our predictions for episode 6. Eric, you had some thoughts on Frog Thor and an Avengers thought that I know that was a little while ago. What's that?
Important thoughts. I assure
you. Oh, please.
You
that's why we're getting to it. Yeah.
And also I did send you a new variant, though it might, it might be a bit of a downer though. So
yeah,
not the usual lightness to it. Okay. One thing about Throg, which I watched it twice. So like, is that a mini Thor? Which first of all, I got very excited about a very little Thor.
Yeah,
just like the idea of a Yellow Jacket head that was really large.
Yes, of course.
I like the idea of variants being overly large or small got me very excited for many reasons. But the idea that Throg is in a jar buried underground and apparently doesn't need air so he can live forever. There's something really creepy and scary and cruel about that. Throg is stuck there forever.
Well,
And-
perhaps he is destined for a middle school where he'll be dissected in a biology class, and maybe he's actually no longer with us. Yeah, there's also like a stray Mjolnir just on the ground at one point, by the way.
Doesn't Throg get his powers by that he can still wield the hammer? Because it looked like he was trying to get to it.
Yes. And I think that made it easier to keep him away from it. And what Eric was referencing before, it was a weird file format, so this is unfortunately the way I have to show it. But in the latest of our variants is the Delta variant, which is of course making headlines now.
I'm coming back to California and I'm terrified of this thing. So
it's
what you sort of know.
Yeah,
and notice by the way, Loki had a mask on the O. There was a lot of.
I noticed that. That was awesome.
Of important detail in there. That took me almost a minute and a half.
Wow.
Wow.
And the bombastic Thor, which feels a little dog whistly using that. I don't know, something about that term. I'm less comfortable with that. What they're implying, and so with that Thor, him talk about killing all the Avengers. What if the Avenger variants are just not that powerful? Like I got really again thinking about what makes the Avengers great? Well, maybe there are variants of them that are just subpar,
or they never got together.
Right. So it's like picking them off one by one, or they're easily fooled. So that was something I was like, okay, if they, again, sort of, I know what if they've already figured out all the ones they're doing, but there's so many fun possibilities of the sort of Thor variant universes for like really doing sort of the upside down of all these things we know and sort of bizarro them. I kind of want to see those now. I have to admit, like at some point I got annoyed with all the Lokis on screen, and then I was like, no, in some ways I almost want to. I wish they would release individual comics of some of those Lokis.
Yeah, I think that would certainly be fun. And by the way, Dominicus Saxon says, "Don't be scared of Delta. Your beard will protect you."
That's why I grew it.
Yeah, exactly. Just an extra layer. Well, Kate, what do you think that we will get from the finale, and what are you hoping to see?
So I have stopped predicting where the show's going because I've been wrong every single time, but that's kind of the great part about it. I kind of want, I kind of think about it like if I were writing the show, I would really like He Who Remains to be at the end of the void. He Who Remains at the end of time, and him to be unleashed and become Kang. And you start working your way backwards in a way that you have this guy who's in a prison at the end of time. And by trying to get to the end, you go back to the beginning in this weird time works differently type of deal. But I kind of I don't know, I want them to tease Kang, but I feel like that's a way that you could do it. And that the connection to the TVA is through Miss Minutes, because she can go back and forth. Because we don't know where she goes when she disappears.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see, and maybe that's where we start off. But
we're definitely gonna get a kiss. We're definitely gonna get a rejection of some kind, or I don't know. And I think what's most interesting is that we've sent Mobius back into the TVA, who is going to go up against Renslayer, and it's proved that he could come back and prove that he was alive. And what is that gonna be? What is that clash gonna be like? And I don't know that Sylvie and Loki will go back to the TVA. I think they are going to spend the rest of their time in that prison world, and then whatever multiverse emerges from that, and it's going to be up to B-15 and Mobius to take down the TVA themselves. And and Casey. I think Casey's going to come back. Casey better come back. I'm going to be so mad if Casey doesn't come back, because he was the best.
We're having some people talking about that there's an issue with the YouTube feed, but some people just switched over to Facebook. It's also on Twitter, but if you're on YouTube right now, you don't see it. I clicked on it on YouTube, and it was fine. But a couple people said that they were having a problem seeing us, which we apologize for. But I'll assume that everything will be fine for.
It's also on MySpace, by the way. You can always go there.
Yes, this is the first show that we didn't do on Friendster, though, which is probably a little bit of an oversight.
That's probably why.
It's going to really hurt your viewership with the over 90 set.
It absolutely did. Whatever we get with the season/series finale of Loki, I would hope that they decide to tell more Loki stories in the future, even if maybe it's a few years before there's another season. There is no reason that you can't revisit this show and do more, But I guess we'll have to see what we get. But I'm excited. The thing that I can't figure out is just what there's going to be for us the rest of the summer now, because we don't have an official premiere date for What If, which maybe we will get. But we have a big theatrical movie, but I don't know which of the live action series is next. Like, did they get enough of Ms. Marvel done? Like, I don't even know.
I don't think so, but it's in terms of Phase 4, we've got Shang-Chi, Eternals, Doctor Strange.
But in terms of the shows, it would have been Loki. It would have been Hawkeye. But they waited for Haley Steinfeld. And so they didn't go into production until much later. Right. So I don't know what we get next. I mean, it'll be What If, but we don't know beyond that. So Daniel's talking about how What If is next, but we don't have a date for it is the point. And so how long are they going to keep us waiting?
I don't know. It seems like the next thing is we're going to be empty for August, and Shang-Chi is September 3rd.
Yes.
So I don't know if anything is going to happen between that point.
But no complaints, because in the interim, we're finally going to get a big budget MCU film being shown in theaters, also available on Disney Plus Premier Access for the low price of $29.99. Is that how you're going to see it, Eric, or are you going to see it at a theater?
There's a story there. It's so convoluted and boring. I will spare you, but it might wind up being Disney Plus first.
That's fair.
I'm not happy about, and I might have pouted about. I won't lie for a good 20 minutes, but listen, my son is not vaccinated. I'm not fucking with this thing. So
yeah.
There you go.
My kids. My kids are 5 and 3. My kids are 5 and 3. We took them to the movies over the weekend to see Peter Rabbit 2, and when they weren't eating their snacks, they sure kept their masks on. And it's like when we took them to Disneyland, like as adults who are vaccinated, my wife and I didn't have to wear masks, but if we want the kids to wear them, we did too, for the most part.
Yeah. Right.
And I have some great tales to tell and details to provide about the Avengers Campus, but I'm going to wait a couple weeks instead of trying to cram it into this show, because after Black Widow, I don't know what we're going to talk about. So I'm saving my talk on Avengers Campus. I took many photos. I have a prop or two that I have procured.
Oh, and, nice.
I really look forward to sharing with everyone. It is what I will say is that it is well worth it. It is what Disney should have done with the Star Wars land, Galaxy's Edge, but instead they turned Galaxy's Edge into a wannabe Renaissance festival where they have to act like it's real and that Star Wars isn't a thing. And so you don't hear the music. And I think that they eventually added characters, but it's like, oh, let's pretend that this is real. I will show one image from our time there, though. This is just my son Felix and I posing with the cap, shield, and the wings, and it was his idea to go wings up, and he hasn't even ever seen anything with Falcon in it. He sees wings and he wants to go with it. So we will talk about that in a couple weeks. And before our next Wednesday episode, which is when we'll talk about the finale of Loki, we will have 2 specials about Black Widow. Kate and I have already seen it, and we brag about it often. So we will be recording an episode, which will post tomorrow, Thursday at 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern. That's for the people who go to the Thursday screenings. It will be filled with spoilers. So if you don't see it that day, don't watch it. But that's for people who come home and are like, oh, I really want to talk about it. It'll be what they call on YouTube a live premiere, where we're not actually doing it, but you'll be able to comment live real time in the chat with other people watching it. Then on Tuesday, I will let Eric and Jeff watch the movie by then, but they cannot watch it until then. So Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that we have 2 episodes coming up after this one before next Wednesday. Hopefully everyone will have seen it by Tuesday. That will be a live episode, and we'll tweet all this out. So you'll be able to watch our conversation Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. But if you see it tomorrow night, come on home and chat with Kate and I. Well, in the chat, because we won't really be there to interact with you. But if I'm awake, I'll saunter into the chat. I'm gonna see it again on Friday at 12:30 with my wife, and I'll be able to watch it with a fresh set of eyes and just bury you with all the thoughts about all the spoilers about the movie.
I love that you're compartmentalizing us. So like, there's a show that's just you and Kate.
Yep.
And then Jeff and I are sort of the backup dancers.
No, if you guys had been in show business and able to see it a week ago, and then and instead you're as far from show business as you could be. You were in Rhode Island.
But honestly, if you and Jeff are the backup dancers, all I gotta say is hot.
That's true. You'll always be. You'll always be the fly girls to my SW1.
Oh God!
What?
Fabulous. And I'm gonna say that Eric is definitely J-Lo out of all the fly girls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen my butt.
Most def.
Yeah. So that's the bulk of our show. But before we say goodbye, this was Eric's idea, and I think it's a great one. We talk about all this on-screen superhero content that I don't know that we would have any of it. I think it would have been much harder to do a lot of this stuff if it weren't for the 1978 Superman film, which was directed by Richard Donner, and he did pass away this week.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to take a moment and talk about just so much work. I as a kid, I was a huge fan of his film The Toy with Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason. That movie was on HBO.
Time has not been kind.
Yeah, but I just knew I loved it because it was on HBO all day, every day, it seemed like. But Eric, do you have a memory? And then I'll go with mine. So Kate, you have a few moments to consider since this is a late addition to the rundown of the show. Eric, what do you have of your thoughts for the remembering Richard Donner?
Well, I think the Toy DVDs would be part of the Song of the South DVDs that they find as the Easter eggs, yes. Like stuff to never go back to. It's like I'm such a fan of the Goonies. And so I would allude to the Goonies, but I know for a fact Chris Columbus probably doesn't like the Goonies as much as the rest of us. But if I could bring up two. So in the Goonies, when Sloth is told when Chunk is told by the Fratellis, spill everything. And then there's this time of my bar mitzvah. And it's like the greatest kid rant ever. And what Richard Donner was able to do with a group of kid actors, it might be the most naturalistic performances a group of kids have ever done on screen. It is that good because all they're doing is yelling and screaming and fighting all the time. And if I at the time, I thought it felt very real. Now that I have two sons, I know it is real. I know what it is like to have more than one dude and try to keep them all in check. And imagine being able to do that as a director, to get all those kids to be so natural on screen. And really, if you ever get a chance, listen to the commentary of that. But a real quick superhero one. Superman 1 is the one, like, I don't know if you were old enough to see it in the theater, almost as old as Richard.
I saw the, I do remember going, had my birthday party for one of the re-releases. A few friends went to the movie theater. So I think it was probably before 3 came out. They put the first one back in the theater because they knew how terrible 3 was. So they're like, yeah, but remember how the first one was good. But
3, the only real Superman in my mind. That's the only one that's legitimate.
Right.
But the first Superman, which we also Richard Pryor, I guess. He really the Richard Donner orbit was wrong with that one. The moment I was thinking about this recently when Lois is in the earth, it gets sucked into the earthquake and is killed. And sorry, spoiler alert if you have been. I don't know.
Haven't seen the 1978.
Yeah, for 42 years, you've somehow avoided it. He pulls the car out, rips the door off, and sort of does like a cry to the heavens, and then shoots up like a rocket. I'll tell you, I've watched that moment, I don't know how many times, every time it works. Yeah. Every time I remember being a kid and being shocked by that. And I, as a kid in the theater, most definitely crying during that. I don't cry as much now, a little, but not as much. Sure. But that moment, even talking about it, gives me a bit of chills.
Well, and also what he understood about Superman that Zack Snyder will never understand is how important Clark is. And if you don't have a good Clark, it's hard to be invested in Superman in any way. And I don't think it's any fault of Henry Cavill, who I think looks the part of both Superman and Clark. It's just not what he was told to do. And, after seeing, I think it was after Man of Steel, I showed my wife, I'm like, well, let's watch the original one. And she's like, oh, this is so much better because I like Clark. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, exactly. And I think that's why that works so well, because you care so much about Clark, Yeah. And
I think that's why Marvel did took the page out of Richard Donner's book when they were making, Spider-Man, the Spider-Man series was kind of like a one-off in a way, where it's like you liked Peter because Peter worked, you could appreciate Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with some of these other heroes that they were bringing in to create the Avengers, it was much harder to do that. And I think the reason why I recently rewatched with a friend of mine, First Avenger, Captain America: First Avenger. That still holds
my favorite
up.
MCU movie, by the way.
Yeah, that still holds up because of, I think they the way you're talking about it, they did take from, I'm sure Kevin Feige rewatched that movie, rewatched Superman and went, how did this work? Because this character on paper and literally in a comic book is like from the same era, from the same time, completely ridiculous outfit. How do we translate this? And it's, you have to like Steve.
You care so much about Steve Rogers. And the scene where he jumps on the grenade shows that he's the bravest guy there. And that's when they know, like, this is our guy, not the guy that you would think would be our guy. So it's hard to top the 1978 Superman. What I will say is something from early in his career that I tweeted about. It's amazing that at such a young age, he is responsible, obviously, along with the very talented staff that Rod Serling had assembled. He is responsible for one of the best half hours in television history, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with William Shatner. And that episode is perfect in every way. And that's a young Richard Donner. So that was the thing that I chose to tweet out, because there were some great testaments to all these things that we're all talking about. But I think people forget that he did that before he did any of these movies. Do you have one that jumps out for you, Kate, for Richard Donner?
Lethal Weapon, I think, is my Richard Donner film.
It's a great call.
Yeah, and it's the buddy cop movie, and the kind of like, anytime I think anyone thinks of like two men on a friendship that's very contentious, which we just got with Falcon and Winter Soldier recently, but I think that was their homage to Lethal Weapon. And anytime it's like, that is the kind of staple. And I remember growing up on Lady Hawk.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
And so that movie was just like super weird, and like, but it was like everyone acted great and just accepted where they were supposed to be and what the situation was. And if the director does it, the actors do it, the crew does it, you do it. It's like if you believe in what you're making. And I think that's what Richard Donner gave to the film industry. He believed in what he was making, and thus everyone else did too.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Lethal Weapon because Eric and I are also getting too old for this shit. So, but a couple comments from Daniel Drew. He mentions that X-Men scribe Chris Claremont posted that he would have been interested in seeing Richard Donner do the X-Men, which is relevant because his wife Lauren Schuler Donner produced all those movies, all the X-Men movies, the good ones, and also X-Men Origins Wolverine. She was involved in all of it, so it would not have been a far cry to imagine that. And Daniel also mentions that Feige mentored under Donner ages ago, so that's why the MCU has a similar feel.
I didn't know that.
And
Thank
he
you
says
so much.
Marvel Studios posted a whole thing about it. I think I understood it correctly.
Yeah, actually, I have if you give me a second here, there was one quote that Feige posted about it. So yeah, he was Lauren Schuler Donner's kind of right-hand man for a bit there, and I believe some of his early credits were like those the Sony Marvel movies, as well. And he talked about Dick and Lauren became mentors during my early career, key supporters throughout the birth of the MCU. I owe my career to the way they took the time to nurture and teach a kid from Jersey who didn't know how to use a fax machine or make coffee very well. I always thought Dick was immortal. I still do. And I my God.
Yeah, by the way, I do remember the event where I didn't meet you, where I saw you for the first time, where you spoke before.
First, in your eye. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That was our meet cute, but we didn't actually meet. He talked about you being a terrible assistant, and boy, is that something that I can relate to.
Dude.
Yeah.
I think the other I want to just say today, because I just found out today, Robert Downey Sr. also passed away today at 85.
Oh, I did. I see that. I didn't even realize. Oh, that's
Robert Downey Jr. had a beautiful thing to say about his father. And I don't think we would have Robert Downey Jr. or Stark without him. Obviously, not only as as he was his father, but as that constant support to make him bounce back.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, exactly. There's several times where Robert Downey Jr., it would make sense that we never heard from him again, before the risky venture of having him do a 2-episode arc of Ally McBeal because he was wandering into the wrong house and going to sleep on someone's couch. When you think back on the fact that
sleep on a girl, I think it was a little girl's bedroom.
Right.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I believe she wasn't home.
Yeah.
So, the fact that they couldn't get an insurance bond to have him star in Iron Man. So, those are both great, impactful figures in the history, and obviously, so many Richard Donner movies are great. I believe he was nowhere near Superman 3 or 4. So that must be why those,
I think he did Superman 2.
No, 2. Yeah, they shot them concurrently.
Oh, 3 or 4.
And there's the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, which it's both of those films suffered because they shot them concurrently and they really wanted to get the first one out on time. But it's mostly because Marlon Brando took all the money. They'd spent so much on him for his glorified cameo. Anyway, as this is archived, please leave comments, or you can post comments to us about any memories about Richard Donner or Robert Downey Sr. We appreciate that. As I mentioned just moments ago, we'll be back tomorrow and on Tuesday. So tomorrow at 10 p.m. Pacific time, which is which is literally Friday, 1 a.m. Eastern time. If you get to a Thursday showing of Black Widow, you can join Kate and I while we talk about it. Or Tuesday, you'll have plenty of time to see Black Widow by then. Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll be back on this show next Wednesday, the 14th at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern, to talk about the finale of Loki. And boy, after that, maybe you'll be sick of us getting 4 shows in 8 days. But we'll have to figure out what to talk about at that point. But if you'd like to continue the conversation, Eric, where can people find you?
Well, at Count Eric Conner on some of the social media platforms, not all. TikTok, always at Cornellable. Of course, you can find me there.
Oh yeah.
And of course, the documentary produce, Other Voices, hanging out on Amazon Prime.
And of course, you can also find me on social media at I Hate Michael Shirley, and on Twitter at Michael X Shirley is where you can find me. Or
we're gonna get Michael Shirley back next week.
Yeah, I got to talk to him.
Man,
I think I have to make sure he watches it. I might give us a few minutes till he comes in. I might I might let
cameo,
us
like special guest.
Yeah, no. He'll be on for most of it, but I think we need to sift through our feelings for maybe 15-20 minutes, but we'll see. And then Kate, obviously, you can be found
on all social media platforms at Cornellable. Come talk to me. I like nerd stuff.
Yeah, please talk to all of us, and Jeff too. Just because he had a note excusing him early today, so it's okay. He's with his mom. So she wrote a note for him. She said, "I'm sorry, Jeff has homework to do." So
signed Jeff's mother.
Signed Jeff's mom.
Signed Epstein's mother. Kame Egan. Great show, guys. Thank you. We always appreciate that. And of course, we appreciate all of you, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you Tuesday, and we'll see you next week.
You're gonna be so sick of us, guys.
I know. It's a good thing that I was gone last week, because I feel like I'm the one that is going to wear out his welcome the most. But until tomorrow, as the great Stan Lee would